My younger half-sister and I fell into the lake together. My husband rescued her first. The next month, he brought her into the mansion and made her his cowwife. Carrying his child, I left without a word. 3 years later, we met at the capital's lantern festival. His eyes red. He demanded, "Where is our child?" The young prince beside him kicked him flying. "I've chased her for 3 years, don't you dare interfere." At the flower viewing banquet, the wooden bridge suddenly snapped. My younger sister and I both fell into the lake. Feng Muzhou immediately dove in, yet bypassed necklaces to him and swam toward my younger sister instead. He carried my half-sister ashore. Her soaked clothes clung tightly to her body, revealing her curvaceous figure. She sobbed, pounding Feng Muzhou's chest. "Now that you've touched me, how can I ever marry? I might as well kill myself." Feng Muzhou's Adam's apple bobbed as he gazed at her deeply and said, "I will marry you. Feng Muzhou is my husband. We've been married for a year now. When I was rescued, I was unconscious. The imperial physician came to treat me and saved my life. Fortunately, Madam is blessed with great fortune. The fetus in your womb remains unharmed. Only then did I learn I was already a month pregnant." Feng Muzhou didn't seem particularly pleased. Upon returning home, he immediately began arranging for his younger sister to enter the household. He was truly in a great hurry. He even instructed the steward, "Mayo's betrothal gifts must be no less than before. Absolutely no less. She must not be shortchanged." The steward looked troubled. "But a concubine's dowry exceeding that of the main wife isn't that improper?" "Who said she's merely a concubine?" Feng Muzhou's expression turned stern. "I have promised her that upon entering the household, she shall be elevated to equal status with my wife. To prevent future humiliation by others," it was obvious who this others referred to. "Before she had even entered the household, I was already branded with the reputation of being unvirtuous and jealous. My morning sickness was unbearable, and my body hadn't fully recovered. Forcing myself out of bed, I said, 'Feng Muzhou, you can only have one wife.'" Feng Muzhou scoffed coldly. "You were born into a distinguished family, blessed with privilege and status. Miao Miao has endured enough hardship already. Why can't you show her a little tolerance?" I shot back. "Countless women suffer hardship in this world. Why not marry them all?" Feng Muzhou laughed bitterly. "Luo Kaiwei, considering your pregnancy, I won't press this. She's your sister. She can accept sharing a husband with you. Why can't you?" The Empresses Huang and Nuying married Emperor Shun, creating a timeless legend. "You two can be my wives together, as long as you don't make things difficult for her." "I won't make things difficult for you." I slapped him across the face. "Don't give me that Huang and Nuying nonsense. It's disgusting." Though Luo Miao was a concubine's daughter, she lived more splendidly than I, the legitimate heiress. All because my father favored his concubines over his wife. I never bullied her, yet she constantly competed with me. Whatever I had, she must have too. As if afraid of falling behind, the year Feng Muzhou and I married, she stormed to my father, wailing, "Father, my beauty is no less than my sister's. Why should she be the one to marry into the Marquis household?" My concubine mother added, "My lord, I've resigned myself to a lifetime as a concubine, but why must my daughter suffer as a secondary daughter? She endures scornful glances wherever she goes. My father swore by heaven he would find Luo Miao a worthy husband. Now, Luo Miao has finally won Feng Muzhou's favor through her own merits. On her wedding day, father added 3 full chests to her dowry, matching the quantity given at my own wedding. Firecrackers crackled along the 10-mile avenue. Passers-by pointed and whispered. Guests murmured among themselves how shameless these two families were. How pitiful the legitimate wife. I excused myself, citing illness, and did not appear. Instead, disguised, I mingled among the crowd and slipped away from the Marquis mansion. He refused to divorce me amicably. I begged him to release me, but he refused. Yet I could not bear to remain confined within the grand mansion. competing with my half-sister for a husband whose heart had strayed. After escaping the Marquis residence, I did not return to my maternal home, the Luo estate. My beloved mother was gone. Leaving only a cold-hearted father and a cruel stepmother, it was no longer my home. I journeyed to Jiangnan, to my maternal grandmother's home in Nanping County. My mother had passed away early, and before my grandmother's own death, she had placed most of her estate in my name. She said, "Child, your father is unreliable. If you leave these assets to him, who knows who might seize them in the future? You must never reveal this." My maternal grandparents had lived a life of deep affection. Yet she still cautioned me, "This world is unjust to women. The more unjust it is, the more men grow accustomed to treating women like soft targets. And no matter how well he treats you, nothing compares to holding wealth firmly in your own hands." I withdrew the first sum from the money house and hired workers to make basic repairs to the abandoned mansion, giving myself a place to stay. Then I sought out the finest physician in Nanping County, the doctor. Seeing my hair styled in the bun of an unmarried woman, asked, "What ailment brings you here, young lady?" An abortion. On the second day of his marriage, Fong Muzhou discovered Luo Kaiwei had vanished. Everything in the room remained, save for a letter left on the table. "Our marital bond is severed. Farewell forever," beautifully written in running cursive script. It was concise and to the point, without a single superfluous word. Fong Muzhou tossed the letter aside indifferently, sneering, "Where could a pregnant woman possibly run off to? The Luo household doesn't welcome her. She'll have to come crawling back in a few days." Luo Miao rose late, her steps light and graceful as she approached the front hall. Fong Muzhou glanced up absently. "Luo Kaiwei is missing. Why did you have people block her last night without telling me?" Luo Miao adjusted the golden hairpin at her temple and smiled. "Husband, last night was our wedding night. How could we let such matters spoil our mood? Besides, my elder sister is sulking at you. If you keep coaxing her back, she'll only grow bolder next time." Fong Muzhou agreed wholeheartedly, drawing Luo Miao into his embrace. "Everyone raves about legitimate daughters, but this marquis finds you, the concubine-born daughter, far more clever and sensible, far better at pleasing a man." He lowered his head to stroke Luo Miao's chin. "You served me well last night." Continue. 3 days later, the couple returned to Luo Manor for the post-wedding visit. Upon entering the Luo residence, Luo Miao affectionately linked her arm through Fong Muzhis. Fong Muzhis' eyes darted around uncomfortably, eager to witness the sorrow and resentment of the woman who had stormed off in a huff. He intended to seize the moment to humiliate her thoroughly, teaching her the price of defying him. Yet Fong Muzhou could not find her anywhere, his focus gradually slipping. Neither Luo Shirlang nor his aunt mentioned Kaiwei's name. Only as they prepared to depart did he clear his throat, hands clasped behind his back. "If Kaiwei sincerely apologizes to me, considering her pregnancy, I won't hold it against her." It took Luo Shirlang a moment to process this. Then he exclaimed in shock, "You two quarreled. Kaiwei never came back at all." Meanwhile, on my end, not long after settling in Nanping County, the court newly enfeoffed a Prince Chen, assigning Nanping County to his fiefdom. The first thing Prince Chen did upon arriving in his domain was to conduct a massive census. The officials arrived at my home in the morning, and by afternoon, the Prince of Qin was at my residence. "I suspect you have deceived the officials and concealed your household's population, having just suffered a miscarriage yesterday." I lay weak and feverish in bed. Hearing this, my heart clenched. If they discovered I was the Marquis' wife who had fled secretly, I would be bound and sent back to the capital, handed over to my husband's family for punishment. All my previous efforts would be wasted. My maid, Xiao Chui, desperately tried to block him outside. I wanted to hide somewhere, but no matter how hard I struggled, I could only move a little. Just as my body was about to fall from the bed, someone burst in. He dashed forward in a single stride, catching me securely at the last moment. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "How did you get yourself into this state?" Still shaken, I stared at the suddenly appearing Prince Chen. So Prince Chen was Xiao Jingchen. He was the emperor's younger brother, born of the same mother. Now in his early 20s. That day when I fell into the lake, gasping for air, I had vaguely seen this face through my days. His gaze was defiant, his features handsome, carrying a wild and unrestrained aura. The emperor secretly mocked him behind his back, saying his temperament was like a wild colt, impossible to tame. Yet, had he not jumped into the water to save me in time, I would have perished. Feng Muzhou later took great offense at this incident. He feared the power of the imperial family and court nobles, daring only to harbor resentment toward Xiao Jingchen without speaking up. Privately, he blamed me for being touched by a man outside the family, bringing shame upon him. Now, Xiao Jingchen gently laid me upon the bed. Seeing my weakened state, he momentarily seemed at a loss. "I heard you were expecting last time. How are you holding up?" I thanked him for saving my life and replied, "The child is no longer with us. I no longer wish to be the Marquise. I only want to live a quiet life under a new name, Your Highness. I beg you, can you make an exception?" I gazed at him with pitiful eyes, a tear welling in my eye, poised to fall. Xiao Jingchen sat down beside the bed, looking down at me from above. "Why hide your identity?" He tucked the bedclothes around me and said gently, "The government is re-registering the population this time. Choose yourself a new name, and it'll help you register it, then you may cast off your former identity and live openly." Relieved and overjoyed, I was about to thank him. Only then did I realize something was amiss. I had barely arrived in Nanping County when it became Xiao Jingchen's fiefdom. He ordered a thorough census. Officials found my lodgings on the very first day, and by afternoon, Xiao Jingchen himself had come calling. Now he could conveniently help me change my name and register my household. Wasn't all this a bit too coincidental? I couldn't help but ask, "Why did Your Highness suddenly come to Nanping County?" Xiao Jingchen looked into my eyes. "I've heard the spring scenery in Jiangnan is beautiful. I've longed to see it for years and didn't want to miss it. My maternal grandmother's surname was Jiang. I chose a distant relative's household with the surname Jiang and registered under her name. The name Suiwei was given by my mother, and I wished to keep it. Thus, I became Jiang Suiwei. After a month of quiet recuperation in bed, I could finally venture out. My grandmother left considerable wealth, but I believed one couldn't live off past gains forever. Only by mastering a skill to earn one's living could wealth flow endlessly, and life hold promise. After arriving in Nanping County, the local cuisine proved the most challenging adjustment. This economically prosperous region attracted many northern merchants, who surely faced similar dietary challenges. Thus, I opened the North-South Eatery. As a first-time venture, I kept investments modest. Main staples included steamed buns and rice, sweet congee and savory congee, sweet tofu pudding and savory tofu pudding, sweet rice dumplings and savory rice dumplings, sweet soy milk and savory soy milk, sweet mooncakes and savory mooncakes. One ingredient, two seasonings, low cost, yet satisfying diverse tastes. The restaurant blended northern and southern flavors, and business gradually flourished. The pain of my husband's indifference and the loss of my child still rooted deep within me. I kept myself busy to distract from these thoughts. Walking through the bustling streets, I suddenly realized that staying at the home mansion as a lifelong mistress, with a life predictable to the end, held little meaning. The identity of a woman from a prominent family was both a reliance and a constraint. Lost in thought, I failed to watch my step and collided with a solid chest. Xiao Jingchen steadied me with a smile. "Lost in thought. What's on your mind?" It was him again. During my convalescence, Xiao Jingchen had delivered tonics every few days, moving through my home with the ease of returning to his own. Xiao Chui remarked, "Isn't Prince Chen visiting a bit too often?" I shrugged it off. "We're both from the capital." Countrymen meeting countrymen, tears well up in our eyes. On the day the restaurant opened, Xiao Jingchen ordered every dish on the menu. Dressed in rich brocade robes, He sat on a small stool and ate leisurely. After that, I kept running into him everywhere. I met his smiling eyes, about to speak, when he slipped off his cloak and wrapped it around me. Spring chill lingers, don't catch cold. The marketplace bustled with crowds and vendors' cries. Amidst the clamor, it felt as if only he and I existed. His expression earnest. He methodically tied the front sash. From this angle, I could see his long, elegant hands, making me feel increasingly uneasy. Your Highness, people might misunderstand. He lifted his gaze, feigning ignorance. Misunderstand what? I remained silent. Since you've decided to start anew, forget the past completely. The home mansion has nothing to do with you. Xiao Jingchen spoke with deliberate meaning. Your name is Jiang Kaiwei. Jiang Kaiwei is the daughter of the Jiang family from Dongjiang in Nanping County. Still unmarried to this day. He turned me to face him, our eyes locking. Kaiwei, do you understand what I mean? His gaze burned with intensity, scorching. I dared not look longer, hastily averting my eyes. Since opening my restaurant, I've encountered all sorts of people. Because I'm beautiful and wealthy, many have expressed their affections. Others don't know my past. But Xiao Jingchen does. His behavior has grown increasingly inappropriate. I fumbled to remove my cloak and thrust it into his arms. The restaurant is busy. Your Highness, I must go now. Xiao Jingchen took 2 quick steps to catch up, clamping his hand around my wrist. Can't you stay with me a little longer? I said I'm busy, very busy. Let go of me, gritting my teeth. I pried his fingers off one by one and bolted for the exit. I dared not look back to see his reaction. I jogged all the way back to the restaurant, trying desperately to calm my nerves, afraid someone might notice something was off. Adopting my boss persona, I strode in with confidence. Xiao Chui leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. Miss, were you just out shopping with Prince Chen? The accountant, who'd been clicking his abacus, spotted me and shouted, Boss, did Prince Chen take a fancy to you? The waiter gave me a thumbs up. Boss, you rock. Sure enough, there's no such thing as a wall that doesn't let the wind through. For the next while, I shut myself indoors. I specifically instructed Xiao Chui that if Prince Chen came to the mansion, she was to find any excuse to keep him out. I figured his current infatuation with me would fade if I ignored him long enough. Back in the Marquis mansion, ID lived a pampered life, never stepping beyond the inner courtyard. A slight breeze could easily knock me over. The world called this frailty a woman's beauty. After my miscarriage, I suddenly realized this sickly beauty was nothing to cherish. I began rising early and retiring early, regulating my diet. In the soft dawn light, I practiced Tai Chi and the 8 brocades with Xiao Chui. My health improved, and my skin glowed more radiantly than before. Whether lightly or heavily made up, I looked lovely, dressed in fine attire. I impulsively told Xiao Chui I wished to learn horseback riding. I've acquired a fine colt that can rear up. Would you like to see it? Looking up, I saw Xiao Jingchen had returned. He sat casually on the courtyard wall, legs propped up, a blade of grass between his teeth. An air of nonchalance about him. The moment he saw me, a flash of astonishment lit his eyes. Today he wore a dark cloud-patterned brocade tunic with arrow sleeves, accentuating his slender waist. His hair tied in a high ponytail. He leapt nimbly off the wall and laughed. Want to learn horseback riding? They'll teach you. I felt a flutter of interest, but I couldn't agree. I merely replied politely, I wouldn't dare trouble your highness. This courtyard is mostly occupied by women. Please use the main gate in future, and you'd let me in through the main gate. Xiao Jingchen looked aggrieved as he closed in step by step. Kaiwei, how long do you intend to hide from me? Unable to deflect his advance, I grabbed Xiao Chui and thrust her forward. Xiao Chui, see our guest out. Xiao Jingchen's face turned icy. He pushed Xiao Chui aside, strode forward, and hoisted me onto his shoulder. He carried me all the way from the backyard to the front gate. In broad daylight, I kicked wildly with my legs, pounding his back without a care for my dignity. Xiao Jingchen, put me down. Someone, help me. The servants gathered excitedly to watch the spectacle. Behind us, Xiao Chui clenched her fists, mouthing silently, "Miss, hang in there." Xiao Jingchen set me down on the horse's back. He swung himself up, gave the horse a sharp kick, and it galloped off, kicking up a cloud of dust. I clung to the saddle, too terrified to breathe. He held the reins in one hand while gripping my waist tightly with the other, preventing me from falling. "Xiao Jingchen, what exactly are you doing?" His breath came in heavy gasps as he whispered into my ear, finding a secluded spot to confess my feelings. The horse left the bustling marketplace behind, its pace quickening. The jolting motion left me dizzy and breathless, but I resolved to lay everything out clearly first. I am the legitimate daughter of the Minister of the Secretariat. I was married, had an abortion, failed to sever ties with my husband's family properly, and fled south in secret to trade openly. If my identity is exposed, they'll be condemned by all and deserve no mercy. He interjected at the perfect moment. With this prince by your side, no one dares punish you. I retorted sharply. You're a royalty. What kind of girl can't you find? But I happen to like you just the way you are. I nearly exploded with fury. What way? Ill change, rebellious and defiant. A spirit of resistance. He cracked his whip sharply and added, just like me. The horse suddenly bolted forward. I screamed in terror, unsure where this madman was taking me or what he might do next. A patch of soft-looking grass appeared ahead. Seizing the moment, I broke free from his grip and leaped from the saddle. What are you doing? Xiao Jingchen startled, reaching out to grab me as he tumbled from the saddle. His hand shielded the back of my head as we rolled several times across the grass before coming to a stop. You're going to scare me to death. He was still shaken. I climbed up from under him, furious, my legs still weak. Spring was in full bloom, a gentle breeze rustling through the air. Xiao Jingchen smiled. This is perfect. Just the two of us. Green carpets stretched beneath us. Willows swayed gently, and pink peach blossoms bloomed brilliantly. Suddenly, a wave of sadness washed over me. My marriage to Feng Muzhou was an arranged one. We were, at best, polite acquaintances. As the legitimate daughter of the Minister of the Secretariat, had I met Xiao Jingchen sooner, perhaps I would have made a different choice. But Xiao Jingchen seemed to read my thoughts. You always taught Xiao Chui that a woman's true beauty lies in her character, that she must be self-reliant and strong, unconcerned with the world's judgment. Yet when it comes to yourself, why can't you let go? His gaze softened as he drew closer. Step by step, my heart raced wildly, and I stumbled back 2 paces. Tai Wei, break free from those shackles. He seized the moment, pinning me against the great willow tree behind us and wrapping his arms around me. His handsome face drew suddenly close, capturing my lips. The imperial capital, the Yongding Marquis Manor. After returning from her visit to her parents that day, Feng Muzhou flew into a rage, tearing Luo Kaiwai's letter to shreds. Our marital bond is severed. I bid you farewell forever. What does she take this marquis for? Only husbands divorce their wives. I've never heard of a noble lady running away and never returning. She's a helpless woman with no one but the Luo family. Where could she possibly go? He gradually calmed himself with these words. Perhaps one day a beggar would appear at the gate. Luo Kaiwei, unable to endure life elsewhere, returning like a stray dog. When that day came, he would make her a servant in the mansion, let her suffer a bit, and cure her of that haughty arrogance. Women needed a lesson now and then. Minister Luo had his servants search secretly for 3 days, but found nothing. He gave up. Feng Muzhou often stared blankly toward the mansion gates, hoping to catch sight of a familiar figure. But half a month passed. A month passed. Not a single trace. Finally losing patience, he mobilized the entire household to search every corner of the capital. The steward protested. Your lordship, if you'd asked sooner, We might have had a chance within the city. But over a month has passed if she left. She's long since crossed the city limits. Feng Muzhou swept the teacups off the table. I don't care. Find her. Of course. She remained unfound. Luo Miao Miao twisted her handkerchief, feigning concern. Sister is young and beautiful, and now with child. What if she encounters some reckless man who doesn't know his place? Shut up. Feng Muzhou struck her hard across the face. His mood was already frayed, and he needed someone to vent his anger on. You wretch. If it weren't for you, Kai Wei would never have run away. You kept urging me not to search for her. You don't want Kai Wei back, do you? Afraid she'll steal your favor. Luo Miao Miao staggered backward from the blow, clutching her stinging cheek. Seething with anger and resentment, you ordered the entire household to search for her. Now the whole capital knows my sister is missing, even if she's found. What then? She's been gone so long, do you know what she's endured? Is she still pure? When rumors start flying, what will become of the Marquis' reputation? Everyone will laugh at you. Feng Muzhou felt a splitting headache. He stumbled toward the room where Kai Wei had once lived. Long neglected. It was covered in dust, with torn letters scattered across the floor. Feng Muzhou collapsed to his knees. Powerless, he pieced the letters together, forming those 8 characters. Weeping and laughing at them, this woman was ruthless, utterly heartless. He found Luo Miao Miao fresh and charming, but he had never once considered letting Luo Kai Wei go. Spring arrived later in the north than in the south. Willow trees were just sprouting new buds. Another month passed. Still no word from Luo Kai Wei. Feng Muzhou let his horse wander freely along the road, inadvertently riding from the capital city to its outskirts. Green grass swayed gently, peach blossoms just beginning to open their buds. He regretted it. Why hadn't he gone to find her sooner? What if something had happened to her? What would he do then? Passing through a grove of willow trees, Feng Muzhou felt an inexplicable wave of irritation wash over him. He drew his riding crop and lashed it hard against the trunk of a large willow tree several times. Jiangnan, Nanping Prefecture. That day, Xiao Jingchen pinned me against the great willow tree and kissed me. His kiss nearly made me lose my mind. But thankfully, reason prevailed in the end. I pushed him away and said, "No, we can't." Xiao Jingchen breathed heavily, staring into my eyes. What exactly are you worried about? Or, do you not like me? Of course. She was attracted to him. He was radiant and strikingly handsome, like the dashing young man who stepped out of my dreams during my teenage infatuations. But things had progressed too quickly between us, and we were both a bit carried away. Perhaps one day, when the novelty wore off, we'd realize it was all just a fleeting illusion. Better to slow everything down. Still waters run deep. I believed myself clear-headed and rational, but in truth, over 2 years later, my little North-South restaurant had grown into the grand North-South restaurant. That night, I was elated and drank a bit too much. My cheeks flushed. Under the moonlit flowers, in the small pavilion warmed by a gentle breeze, I swayed as I stood up and said, "Xiao Jingchen, I'll dance for you." Xiao Jingchen snatched my wine glass, saying I was drunk. "I'm not drunk. If you keep bossing me around like this, I won't like you anymore." He covered my mouth just in time, catching the crucial words. "So you mean, you like me?" His eyes were clear and bright, like a sky full of stars. His hands were beautiful too long. Slender fingers with a pleasant scent I'd always loved. In a daze, I don't know what came over me, stuck out my tongue and licked his palm. Xiao Jingchen's body stiffened instantly. He hastily hid that hand behind his back, gritting his teeth. "Kai Wei, stop fooling around." I beamed. "Look how nervous you are. It was just a lick, like you got bitten by a dog." His eyes darkened, his Adam's apple rolling once. I picked up a cup of wine, playfully slapped his cheek, and asked why he wasn't drinking. Xiao Jingchen said nothing. Seemingly unable to bear it any longer, he swept me up in his arms and carried me toward the bedroom. Outside, the moon hung high, The cicadas in the trees and the crickets in the corners had fallen silent. He rolled me onto the bed, kissing me passionately, before the last shred of reason vanished. His voice hoarse. He asked cautiously, "Pai Wei, is it okay?" I gazed into his striking eyes, sinking deep into the tenderness of his gaze, the wine taking hold. I flipped him onto his back and took control. "Xiao Jingchen, don't regret this." I kicked off my embroidered shoes, cupped his face, and pressed my lips to his, kissing him fiercely, again and again. Clothes were torn off as we moved with desperate urgency. Red candles wept tears of wax, filling the room with sensuality. When I woke the next morning, a sudden sense of awareness made me open my eyes wide. Xiao Jingchen lay naked beside me, still asleep, his expression utterly sated. In that moment, my breath nearly stopped. I clutched my head in disbelief. What had I done last night? He sensed my movement and woke, giving me a faint smile. "I'm sorry," I blurted out. Xiao Jingchen propped himself up, revealing his lean upper body and sharply defined 8-pack abs. No wonder I must have been starved for so long, captivated by his mesmerizing physique, that I lost control after drinking. "What's wrong?" he asked, looking at me suspiciously, recalling certain details from last night. It wasn't hard to guess this was his first time. The scratch marks on his shoulder were also mine. I was a beast. My guilt grew unbearable, and I nearly cried. "I'm sorry. I lost control and ruined you, huh?" Xiao Jingchen nearly laughed, then followed up. "So how do you plan to make it up to me? How do you want me to make it up?" "Marry me." I thought about it, then shook my head. "That won't work. My grand restaurant just opened. I'm too busy." Xiao Jingchen quickly understood. Things had happened too suddenly. I didn't know how to face it, so I'd been spouting nonsense. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his voice gentle. "Don't be afraid. Last night was consensual. Even if we marry, you can still do whatever you want. If you don't want to marry now, we can discuss it later." My heart settled slightly, and I nodded, though still feeling guilty. About last night. Please don't tell anyone." He chuckled softly. "Of course not." It had started raining outside. Xiao Jingchen used the excuse of not bringing an umbrella to stay. "What good is there in me that deserves this from you?" Fine rain fell like a weave. He and I sat quietly under the eaves, watching the rain beat against the duckweed. Green lush and red faded. Xiao Jingchen pulled a handkerchief from his collar. "Is this yours?" The handkerchief was slightly yellowed, looking rather old. Had Xiao Jingchen not mentioned it, I would have forgotten the events of that year. When I was 8, I accompanied my mother to a banquet in the palace. On the way, nature called, and a wet nurse led me to relieve myself. Passing by the lotus pond, I saw a struggling figure within. With no one around, the wet nurse whispered, "Miss Luo, it's best not to meddle in palace affairs." I couldn't bear the child looked even younger than me. I found a pole and begged the nurse to help pull him out. The water wasn't deep. When the little boy was dragged ashore, he was covered in mud. I wiped his face with my handkerchief, but the more I wiped, the dirtier it got. I couldn't even make out his features. "Little brother, how did you fall into the lotus pond?" Still shaken, he merely regarded me with unfamiliar eyes. The banquet was about to begin. The matron urged me to leave this trouble spot quickly, and the handkerchief remained in the boy's hands. That was the last handkerchief I ever lost. Not long after, my mother passed away. While she was alive, I never cherished her handkerchiefs, for if I lost one, she would embroider a new one for me. After she was gone, no one embroidered new ones for me anymore. I never lost another handkerchief. Xiao Jingchen clasped my hand, his palm warm. "Pai Wei, you saved my life. Had I not returned in time that day, my mother would have hanged herself." Xiao Jingchen and his elder brother, Xiao Jingzhua, had endured a tragic childhood. They endured humiliation and hardship from childhood until last year, when Xiao Jingzhua ascended the throne. finally bringing them relief. The moment I saw you, I felt a sense of familiarity, but back then, my position was unstable, and my life was constantly in danger. I dared not risk revealing myself to you. By the time my brother became emperor, you were already married. I thought that even if I couldn't keep you by my side to protect you, simply seeing you happy would be enough, until that day when you fell into the water, and Feng Muzhou stood by and did nothing. At this point, Xiao Jingchen's eyes burned with fury. How could such a man deserve someone as wonderful as you? Only then did it dawn on me. So you were the one who saved me that day. Because I've always been watching over you. Xiao Jingchen cupped my face, pressing his forehead against mine. My journey south was to find you. I petitioned my imperial brother to grant this region as my fiefdom to protect you better. Apricot blossom rain fell, misting my eyes. I could no longer bear to push him away. 2 years passed. Yet Feng Muzhou still hadn't found Luo Kaiwei. She seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth. Searching high and low, digging to the depths of the earth, he found not a single trace of her in the capital. The old steward hesitated several times before speaking. Your lordship, if the lady did not return to the Luo family, might she have gone to her maternal grandmother's home instead? This servant heard that the latter's maternal grandmother was quite wealthy. After she passed away, Lord Luo went to the south to settle her affairs but found only an abandoned mansion and a few silver notes. Most of the estate vanished. Rumor has it thieves stole it. What if that old lady had planned ahead and secretly moved the family assets? The steward stopped there, and Feng Muzhou's eyes lit up instantly. He exclaimed excitedly, "Are you saying Kaiwei might have gone to her maternal grandmother's hometown? Where is her maternal grandmother's home again?" Feng Muzhou racked his brain. Kaiwei had mentioned her maternal grandmother before, but he hadn't paid it much mind, so no details stuck. The steward sighed helplessly. Nanping Prefecture. Feng Muzhou grabbed a book from the table and smacked the steward on the head. "Why didn't you say so sooner?" The steward tucked his hands into his sleeves and muttered softly. This old servant was merely speculating, without concrete evidence. What if we still couldn't find her? You'd only torment us all over again, over the years. Feng Muzhou's relentless search for Luo Kaiwei had not only driven everyone in the household to despair but had also worn him down to the bone. He often sat motionless in Luo Kaiwei's room all night long. When discovered the next morning, his eyes were sunken and dark, like a ghost's. Had also developed a drinking problem. Late at night, drunk and delirious, he'd shout, "Kaiwei, where are you? I was wrong. Please, come back." A man in his 20s, his face streaked with snot and tears, looked both pitiful and ridiculous. Finally, heaven rewarded his persistence. The men sent to secretly investigate Nanjing Prefecture brought back news they had discovered traces of Luo Kaiwei. Feng Muzhou's nearly dead heart sprang back to life. By now, the child should be about 1.5 years old. He wondered whether it was a boy or a girl, whether it resembled her or him. To prove his sincerity, he resolved to journey to Nanping Prefecture himself to bring her back. For an official to leave the capital, advance notification to the court was required. A written report detailing the purpose, destination, and duration of the trip. Approval must be obtained sequentially from the Ministry of Ceremonies, the Secretariat, the Ministry of State, and finally the Emperor before departure. The approval process alone took at least half a month, and since this was a personal matter, higher authorities might not grant permission. Feng Muzhou couldn't wait a moment longer. He had his carriage and belongings prepared and set off immediately. Luo Miao appeared suddenly like a ghostly apparition. Heavy makeup couldn't conceal the pallor on her face. She sneered. "You've searched for 2 years without finding her. She's probably long gone." Going there will only lead to disappointment. The sight of her infuriated Feng Muzhou. She couldn't hold a candle to Kaiwei in any way. Kaiwei was intelligent and capable, managing the household with impeccable order. When he faced setbacks in officialdom, she offered wise counsel. But Luo Miao, beyond her skills in the bedroom, she was utterly useless, no better than a courtesan. unfit for respectable company. Whenever he brought her to banquets among high officials, she drew pointed stares, dragging him down with her shame. How could he have been so blind to allow her into the household? Today, Feng Muzhou was in a good mood and spared her a beating. Before leaving, he declared, "This marquis can only have one principal wife. My Kaiwei is returning. You shall be a concubine." Luo Miao Miao stared in disbelief, her eyes wide, unable to recover for a long moment. Xiao Jingchen's mouth is the sharpest I've ever seen. Whenever the restaurant introduces new dishes, I have him taste them first. If he finds them acceptable, our guests will too. That day, a table of customers arrived. Instead of eating, they kept glancing around and asking questions, as if searching for someone. Their accents suggested they were from the capital. I paid extra attention, cautioning the staff to be discreet, then relayed the matter to Xiao Jingchen. Should I lay low for a couple days? No need, this was his territory. If he said it wasn't necessary, then I wouldn't hide. Life carried on as usual. Xiao Jingchen had been eating imperial cuisine in the palace. Missing those flavors, I learned to recreate several dishes for him, though not quite up to the imperial chef's skill. They captured about 70 or 80% of the flavor, and he ate with great satisfaction. An idea struck me. What if I replaced the precious ingredients of imperial cuisine with more affordable substitutes, creating dishes that matched the color, aroma, and taste? Could this let common folk experience the flavors of the palace? The moment affordable imperial cuisine substitutes hit the market, business exploded like never before. Of course, I dared not claim these dishes were modeled after imperial cuisine. One mustn't offend the majesty of the royal house. I called them flavors of Prince Chen's hometown. After some time, I heard of a disturbance at the city gate where someone had been arrested. The gate had recently tightened inspections. Guards demanded travel permits and household registration from anyone suspicious. They discovered someone had dared to impersonate a court official. Without a word, Prince Chen ordered the prefect to have them arrested. The man never even made it through the city gate. She was taken straight to the Nanping prefecture prison. Xiao Jingchen was in an unusually good mood those days. A vague suspicion stirred in my heart, and I asked, who exactly was arrested at the city gate? At first, he pretended not to hear me, then finally gave a dismissive reply. Just a common criminal. Ah, just a common criminal. I didn't buy it. An ordinary criminal requires you personally to intervene with the prefect. His eyes twinkled mischievously. Kaiwei, your outfit today is truly lovely. It makes your waist look even slimmer. May I touch it? Later, Xiao Chui found out that man had been locked up in the dungeon for 7 days. Then, on a pitch-black night with howling winds, the jailer tossed him outside the city gates. Warning: this is a small punishment for a big lesson. Dare to impersonate the Marquis of Yongding again, and you'll regret it. If you show your face in Nanping County again, they'll break your legs. His hair was disheveled, his face deathly pale. He frantically pounded on the slowly closing city gates, his voice a wrenching scream. You corrupt officials! You dog of a county magistrate! You don't know a mountain when you see it. I demand an audience with Prince Chen. Let Prince Chen see justice done. On the winter solstice, I was teaching Xiao Jingchen how to make dumplings. He sighed heavily, hesitating to speak. It turned out that with New Year's Eve approaching, Xiao Jingchen had received an imperial decree ordering him to return to the capital for the holidays. This is good news. The emperor holds you in deep brotherly affection. It's the perfect time for family reunion. Saying this, I felt a pang of sadness. I no longer had a family. Here, I had Xiao Chui, the shop assistants, the maids and servants at home, though they were as close as family. They were not my family. Xiao Chui and the accountant had been exchanging glances for ages. Planning to marry next year. The saying that holidays intensify homesickness holds true. Xiao Jingchen let out a wail. Returning home for the new year at my age means I'll be hounded about marriage. If I could bring my future princess consort back with me. His Majesty wouldn't say a word. Kaiwei, Are you going back? He knew I'd rather not set foot in the capital, that place of sorrow. So he asked cautiously, holding back his hopes. Though he was a man of flamboyant nature, he was always considerate toward me. He smiled and said, "It's fine if you don't go. They'll find ways to placate my brother. They'll come back for you after the new year." I gathered my courage. "Let's go back together." Xiao Jingchen was stunned. I buried my face in his chest, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've taken advantage of you. I can't let you remain without recognition forever, even if there are people in the capital I don't wish to see. Your family is there too. I want to be with you. They dislike me. They'll return openly and proudly. They'll open the grandest restaurant in the capital, raking in gold by the bucketful, until they're green with envy." Xiao Jingchen was both shocked and delighted. He lifted me high in his arms, his excitement palpable. Truly a girl worthy of this prince's affection. On our first day back in the capital, after washing and changing, Xiao Jingchen couldn't wait to take me to the palace to meet His Majesty. Before we even entered, he called out, "Your Majesty, I've brought your sister-in-law back." Unlike his carefree demeanor, I curtsied properly. The emperor, engrossed in memorials, didn't even lift his eyes. His voice carried irritation. "Is this the consort you brought back after 3 years in Jiangnan?" Xiao Jingchen tugged at the corner of his mouth and went to coax him. "Brother, Kai Wei is timid. Don't frighten her," His Majesty snorted coldly. Setting aside the memorial, his expression turned stern. She abandoned the marquis residence, fled south in secret, changed her name and identity, and within 3 years turned a small eatery into the largest restaurant in the region. His Majesty glanced at me. "You call her gentle?" Sure enough. His Majesty had long been fully aware of my background. I dared not respond, kneeling on the ground as meek as a quail. Xiao Jingchen beamed with pride. "Your Majesty, you must agree my Kai Wei is quite capable." "No." I shut my eyes tightly, unable to bear listening. "Rise." "No need to kneel," Xiao Jingchen grinned, pulling me up and winking at me. His Majesty didn't look at me, instead asking Eunuch Wang beside him, "How is it progressing?" Eunuch Wang replied in a soft, measured tone, "Your Majesty, the government regulations state that if a person has been missing for over 3 years, they are considered deceased. This servant has checked with the Ministry of Revenue. Luo Kaiwei's name has already been crossed out in red ink from the population register." His Majesty hummed in acknowledgement, then raised his eyes to Xiao Jingchen. "Are you satisfied now? Once you're married, behave yourself and spare me the worry." He then turned his scolding toward me. "And you, as a princess consort, you have the duty to support your husband and raise children. If he ever does anything foolish again, they'll scold you along with him." I was stunned by the rebuke. Only after leaving the palace did it dawn on me, and I breathed a silent sigh of relief. Xiao Jingchen chuckled. "My brother just loves to scare people. He was wary of your background at first, thinking you were some fox-like seductress, and flatly refused. But after learning you saved my life, and hearing how clever and capable you are, thriving in the south, he became utterly impressed." He wrapped his arm around my shoulder. "Don't fear him. Next time you see him, just call him Your Imperial Highness." Rumors circulated outside that the future Princess of Qin was a Jiangnan woman, deeply in love with the Prince of Qin. No one knew what she looked like. I was busy embroidering my wedding gown and hadn't made any public appearances. The 15th day of the first lunar month, the Lantern Festival. Xiao Jingchen and I walked arm in arm to admire the lanterns. Phoenix Flut ES played, jade lanterns shimmered, and fireworks bloomed in the sky. My makeup was exquisite. I wore a moon-white robe embroidered with magnolias, paired with a persimmon red plain skirt. Over it, I draped a silver fox-hooded cloak. My hair styled in an unmarried maiden's bun. Xiao Jingchen bought lanterns while I waited nearby for him to pay. A trembling voice suddenly emerged from behind me. "Kai Wei, is that you?" At first, I thought I had misheard. Only when the figure rushed before me, his expression frantic and his face haggard, Did I recognize him after a moment's shock? It was Fong Muzhou. I frowned. My face twisted with disgust. You've mistaken me for someone else. I've searched for you for 3 years. How could I mistake you? You're my legally wedded wife. His eyes were red-rimmed as he approached step by step, hesitant to move too fast, as if afraid I might vanish before him. Pai Wei, where is our child? What's his name? Is it a boy or a girl? Do you know? I dream of hearing him call me father. Call you old man. Xiao Jingchen came over holding a rabbit lantern and kicked him to the ground. Fong Muzhou, are you blind? She is the princess I am about to marry. How dare you show such disrespect? Ignoring his current disarray, Fong Muzhou scrambled to his feet. His gaze still fixed on me with a dazed look. Impossible. I couldn't be mistaken. Pai Wei, it's you. I took the rabbit lantern from Xiao Jingchen's hand, met his gaze, and said softly, Your Highness. There are too many strangers outside. It's rather unpleasant. Let's go home. Very well. He adjusted my cloak and helped me into the carriage. The carriage sped along. At the mansion gates, I leaned on Xiao Jingchen's arm to step down only to hear that voice calling my name again. For 3 or 4 miles, Fong Muzhou had actually trotted alongside the carriage, catching up. Head run so hard he gasped for breath, his robe caked in dust from countless tumbles. Kai, cough. Pai Wei, I, cough. Xiao Jingchen rolled his eyes and ordered someone to fetch a ladle of cold water. Fong Muzhou clutched the ladle, gulping down more than half its contents before steadying himself. He opened his mouth to speak to me. The child was aborted long ago. I spoke coldly. The ladle clattered to the ground, water splashing onto his shoes and soaking his brocade robe. Fong Muzhou froze, his expression stiff as if he hadn't heard correctly. What did you just say? I refused to repeat myself. You heard me perfectly well. Xiao Jingchen placed a hand on my shoulder, the gesture bringing me a measure of comfort. Because of that child, I could never forgive Fong Muzhou. Fong Muzhou staggered back, staring at me in disbelief. The desire that had flared in his eyes flickered and died like a small flame. His hands clamped around my arms, his eyes bloodshot as he screamed hysterically. That was my child. How dare you abort it without my permission? Xiao Jingchen grabbed his collar and flung him back. Don't touch her. I stared coldly at Fong Muzhou. When I fell into the water pregnant, you didn't save me. When I suffered severe morning sickness and couldn't sleep, you were preparing to welcome a new bride into the mansion. When I left the marquis residence, you didn't search for me. Fong Muzhou cut me off, his voice trembling. I did look for you. I went to Nanping County myself, a year ago, to find her. He had defied imperial regulations and left the capital without permission. Upon his return, he was reprimanded by His Majesty, demoted, and had his salary reduced. I've demoted Luo Miao Miao to a concubine. You are now the sole mistress of the household. From now on, the marquis residence is yours to command. As for children, we will have them in time. His tone softened. I truly regret my mistakes. Please come back with me, will you? But like spilled water on the ground, it could never be retrieved. Recalling the past, I found myself far calmer than expected. You blame me for aborting the child, yet you know nothing of the agony I endured in doing so, nor do you understand the utter loneliness and desperation that drives a woman to make such a decision. But then again, you dared to treat me so shamefully. Was it that because you believed you could control me, that I was helpless and without recourse? I looked down at him from above, pinching his chin to force him to meet my gaze. Fong Muzhou, I have one question for you. If 3 years ago, I couldn't survive outside and return to the home mansion, would you have respected me as your wife? Would you have cherished and cared for me? Fong Muzhou strained to recall his thoughts back then. He thought, if Kai Wei couldn't survive outside and came crawling back like a stray dog, let her serve as a servant in the mansion. Let her suffer a bit, learn humility, and curb her haughty ways. I released him, wiping my hands in disgust. What right do you have to beg me to return? Do you even deserve it? Fong Mu's his face drained of color as he slumped weakly onto the steps. He looked up at me, then at Xiao Jingchen, his eyes burning with jealousy and hatred. A day as husband and wife creates 100 days of affection. We were married for a year. Prince Chen is merely infatuated with you now. Can you guarantee he'll always treat you well? Xiao Jingchen heard this and grew displeased, stepping forward to deliver another kick. I chased her for 3 years before finally winning her over. Do I need you stirring up trouble here? Fong Muzhou clutched his aching chest, blood seeping through clenched teeth. The esteemed Prince Chen steals another man's wife. Do you fear no shame when word spreads? Tarnishing the royal family's honor. Xiao Jingchen smiled faintly, drawing me close. My consort's name is Jiang Kaiwei. Lord Fong is delusional's mistaken me for someone else. Guards, close the gates. The vermilion doors creaked shut and locked. The figure headlong for day and night was now being led into the palace by Xiao Jingchen. Fong Muzhou, unwilling to accept defeat, pounded the doors frantically with his fists. Kaiwei, don't go in. Come out. I'm not finished. Suddenly, this scene felt eerily familiar. It was just like that year at the gates of Nanbing County. It dawned on him, shivering in the biting wind. His body shook harder and harder. So the mastermind behind locking him in prison for 7 days and nights a year ago was Prince Chen. Prince Chen had just said had pursued Kaiwei for 3 years. Didn't that mean had been by her side the moment she went to Nanbing County? Thinking back over these 3 years, he had searched the entire capital like a fool, unaware that another man had long been by her side. Enjoying carefree days, his own appearance had grown haggard, his health steadily declining, yet she radiated vitality, her figure more graceful than ever. Bright and confident. The night of the 15th day of the first lunar month stretched on, snowflakes gradually drifting from the sky. Fong Muzhou stood in the biting wind, eyes closed, feeling the icy flakes land on his face and slowly melt. The next morning, word spread that Fong Muzhou had stood outside the prince's mansion all night. He collapsed in the snow at dawn and was carried back by the marquis servants. Fong Muzhou ran a high fever for several days straight. When he finally began to recover, his rage toward Luo Miao boiled over. If you hadn't fallen into the water, deliberately pulling open your collar to seduce me, how could Kaiwei have left me? Luo Miao had long since shed her gentle facade. Confronting Fong Muzhou openly, you take the bait at the slightest hint of seduction. You're easier to catch than fish in water. How pathetic are you? You want me to be your obedient little pet. Yet you crave someone as clever and capable as Luo Kaiwei. Why don't you take a good look at yourself? If it weren't for your marquis title, would I ever have married you? Fong Muzhou lashed out with a slap, his eyes bulging with fury. I was blind to see you were this kind of woman. Guards, lock her up. Let her starve for days. Luo Miao's maid sought help from the Luo family. But Luo Shirlang ignored her. Instead, intrigued by my situation, he sent an invitation to visit the Prince of Chen's residence. I declined. I've never met Luo Shirlang. I want see him, the 16th day of the 3rd month season of growth. Auspicious for marriage. Xiao Jingchen and I paid homage to heaven and earth, then to His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress. We returned to the Prince Chen's residence for our wedding night. Xiao Jingchen, clad entirely in red, stood before me. Barely able to contain himself, he suddenly swept me up in his arms, lifting me off the ground. My feet lost their footing, and I instinctively reached to pull off my veil. What are you doing? Don't lift it, his familiar voice came through. As gentle as ever, he adjusted my veil and said, Kaiwei, I'm taking you somewhere special. I end the quiet night. 2 people dressed in wedding attire rode side by side on a single horse, galloping swiftly. The night wind swept past my ears. With my head covered, I couldn't see ahead. Feeling both thrilling and dangerous, yet because of the person behind me, I felt utterly at ease. After riding an unknown distance, Xiao Jingchen helped me dismount. Beneath our feet lay a mountain path strewn with wildflowers. "We're here." He slowly lifted my veil. I saw Xiao Jingchen's face, handsome features, eyes sparkling with life, reflecting my own image. He had finally become my husband. Behind him, a colossal moon hung high in the night sky. Though it was said only one moon shone through the ages, the one I saw that night was different. It was the moon from Zhang Ruox's poem, shimmering and flowing for thousands of miles. Overjoyed, I feigned pouting and complained, "On our wedding night, why did you bring me here?" Xiao Jingchen embraced me from behind, his hands resting on my lower back. "The ancient meaning of bridal chamber lies within a mountain cave. You and I, beneath the open sky. In this cave chamber it embodies the elegant charm of following the sentiments of our forebears." He seldom spoke so pedantically, yet this time he delivered it with solemn earnestness. I thought he must have been saving some clever words, but as I let his words sink in, my face flushed crimson, and I pinched him playfully. He grinned mischievously, kissing his way down from my forehead while deftly undoing my sash. His scorching breath flared against my skin, sending shivers through me. "Don't be nervous," he murmured hoarsely. "There's a hot spring waiting for us. I've arranged it all. It'll be utterly blissful." Shame. On the night of my wedding, an incident also unfolded at the Marquis residence. Feng Muzhou hadn't attended the ceremony. Instead, getting utterly drunk at an inn, he returned in the dead of night, disoriented and distraught, to find the steward and servants kneeling in a heap. The concubine pried open the door lock, stole the estate's banknotes, and fled. Feng Muzhou sobered up instantly. On the table lay a piece of paper bearing 8 large characters. "Our marital bond is severed. I sever all ties with you forever." The words were identical to what Kai Wei had written years ago. Only now the handwriting was crooked and sloppy. He tore the paper to shreds, finding that insufficient, then stomped it into a pulp with his foot. "You vile woman! Dare you insult this marquis? Hurry and chase after her, your lordship." Men have already been dispatched to pursue the concubine. Feng Muzhou, consumed by fury, struck him across the face. "I meant to retrieve the money. As for her life or death matters not." Feng Muzhou ground out the words, then suddenly choked on his rage and spat out a mouthful of blood. Xiao Jingchen mentioned he hadn't attended court in ages, likely gravely ill. "Since our marriage, my days have grown exhausting. I wish to open a branch of the great North-South restaurant in the capital, but as a princess consort, His Majesty forbade me from appearing in public for business." Xiao Jingchen thus took charge of the venture, bearing the title of proprietor while I remained the true decision-maker. By day, I managed the business and reviewed the ledgers. By night, Xiao Jingchen found new ways to torment me. I truly couldn't fathom where he found such boundless energy, how he never seemed to tire. Surely His Majesty had assigned him plenty of duties as well. Kai Wei, do you prefer the capital or Jiangnan? I pondered for a moment and replied, Jiangnan. I suppose. My maternal grandmother lived in Jiangnan, and my mother was also a woman of Jiangnan. Very well. Once we've settled the affairs in the capital, we'll return to Jiangnan. Before we could depart, I discovered I was pregnant, so I discussed with Xiao Jingchen that we should stay in the capital first and have the child here. He began pondering names for the baby early on. After poring over classical texts, he selected 2 from hundreds of potential names. If it's a girl, well, name her Zihan. If it's a son, well, name him Zihan. Cradling my belly, I rolled my eyes. Then let's have a girl. Well, nickname her Fuguei. Xiao Jingchen frowned. Don't you think that's rather vulgar? The most commonplace can be the most elegant. I think it carries a wonderful meaning. Throughout my 9+ months of pregnancy, news of Luo Miao Miao occasionally reached me. She traveled south with silver notes, heading to Suzhou. She spent a fortune to acquire the city's most prime location for a restaurant. Naming it East-West Grand Restaurant, she hired the most renowned local chef and recruited over 80 staff, brimming with ambition to make a grand success of it. Within half a year, the restaurant collapsed. due to spoiled ingredients causing customers to fall ill. Luo Miao had no money to compensate them and was dragged before the authorities. After that, her whereabouts became unknown. Her mother wept until she went blind. Rushing to the Marquis' residence to beg Fang Muzhou for help in finding her, already in a foul mood. Fang Muzhou responded with scorn. Luo Miao stole from this household. I divorced her long ago. Not demanding compensation from the Luo family was already an act of mercy and kindness on my part. You, a mere minor concubine of the Luo household, dare to lecture me. He had her dragged out onto the street, sparing her no dignity whatsoever. The Luo and Fang families became bitter enemies, exposing each other's scandals in court. Even the Minister Luo's secret visits to brothels and the Marquis Fang's drunken brawls in inns were dug up. Enraged, the emperor stripped both Fang Muzhou and Minister Luo of their titles and demoted them. Rumors spread about Fang Muzhou. The Marquis married 2 wives, one ran away and never returned, and the other ran away and never returned. Some said Kai Wei was truly fortunate. After being abandoned by her husband's family, she encountered a powerful prince who loved her deeply. Ordinary people never get such opportunities. Without one, their lives would be ruined. Whenever I heard such talk, I would just smile. When I fled the Marquis mansion, I never imagined I'd meet Xiao Jingchen. My plan was to terminate the pregnancy, retrieve the money my grandmother left at the money house, then move elsewhere, find a suitable family, pay them off, and have them adopt me as their long-lost daughter, open a small eatery, then a grand restaurant, and make a fortune. Xiao Jingchen's appearance caused a slight shift in my plans. My childhood experiences and the teachings of my mother and grandmother had long instilled in me the wisdom not to depend on men. Yet neither my father's coldness toward my mother nor Fang Muz's betrayal of me robbed me of the capacity to love another. Meeting Xiao Jingchen added splendor to my life. Had I not met him, I would have become my own son. Those misfortunes and sorrows became but fading memories. Another 2 years passed. I heard Fang Muzhou ignored the doctor's warnings, drank himself into madness, and fell from a high platform in the dead of night, his life extinguished. When the servants found him, he clutched a letter tightly in his hand. Our marital bond is severed. I sever all ties with you forever. The calligraphy was graceful and elegant, bold yet composed, clearly the work of someone skilled and refined. The letter was yellowed, as if torn apart and then painstakingly pieced back together. Minister Luo voluntarily resigned his post and returned alone to his hometown, leaving behind the concubine he had cherished all his life. Luo Miao's mother went mad and was also abandoned. But none of this concerned me. We bid farewell to His Imperial Majesty and set out for our fiefdom in Jiangnan. Unlike my earlier exile from the capital, this convoy stretched for miles. More importantly, my beloved was by my side. Xiao Jingchen was in high spirits. Once we reach Jiangnan, you can open an inn if you wish, or establish an academy. Far from the emperor's gaze, no one will bother us. Fugui nestled in Xiao Jingchen's embrace, nibbling her fingernails. In her babyish voice, she asked, "Mother, why do you love Jiangnan so much?" I replied, "Because Jiangnan is lovely. Its scenery once familiar to me. At dawn, the river flowers blaze redder than fire. In spring, the river waters turn green as indigo. How could one not remember Jiangnan?" The end.